Hey guys, so I am going live. I'm actually doing this in response to a thought that somebody else kind of had that was pretty much the same thing that I thought about the Washington Redskins and the Kansas City Chiefs joining in on the anthem protest. Now, if you saw my broadcast or live stream from about an hour ago, you would probably see that I was pretty amped up because of Obamacare, pretty pissed off about that, but it doesn't mean that I wasn't thinking about the anthem protest today. Unfortunately, it is getting too much attention relative to Puerto Rico and Mexico and North Korea and the other crises going on. Why is it any more important what's going on with these anthem protesters who are, to be honest with you, a bunch of morons? And who many of them, I'd probably say apart from 5 or 6 of them, they're not the most intelligent people. And, they're not even, they're not even giving any real reason why they're protesting. So in some cases, these are people that don't even, they don't even care about anything else in their life except for their luxury cars and going to strip joints. There are a few like Anquan Bolden that are pretty intelligent people, but those are the exception of the rule. Richard Sherman, of course, I'd also call an exception to the rule. The majority of these guys are dumb as a box of rocks. But there's an added element that's going on here, and this person that brought it up, she took the words I read out of my mouth. How is it that these teams that have American Indian mascots can pretend that they're protesting racism? You have the owner of the Washington Redskins, Daniel Snyder, notoriously callous towards the protests of American Indian activists who have been saying, "Oh, we don't really take kindly to the whole Redskins name or whatever. We think it's kind of racist." He says, "Well, I think poll numbers show that most American Indians don't think it's racist." Now, he did have a point there. There are a number of American Indians, including one that I talk to on a regular basis. Angel, I've actually had him on the show. Of the ABL show, I'm a huge fan of. We both call in. Angel is a huge Redskins fan, and he's an American Indian. And like I said, freedom of speech extends to everybody. If you want to be in favor of something that I don't understand, go ahead. It still confuses me. If I was in their position, I'd probably think otherwise, but it is what it is. There are a lot of American Indians that support the Washington Redskins and the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cleveland Indians and the Atlanta Braves. I'm not sure. Maybe they did take it as a badge of honor that these teams do honor them, and it's up to them. But there is a significant portion of Americans and American Indians that think that the Washington Redskins is one of the most racist names there is. There is plenty of evidence to back up the fact that the team itself and its history, they harken back to just racism in all different dimensions, not just in terms of American Indians. So I'm just going to show you this meme that I did make by myself about 5 minutes ago. And for some of you, it just won't be so obvious, but I'll just walk you through it because it won't take very long. You see here on the north, on this side, you have, hold on, let me stop this for a second. I need the actual image. Let me just open this image in a new tab. Stop the phone. Sorry for the delay. I'll move back to it. So there's this image. You have on the one hand, you have this picture of the Redskins kneeling during the anthem. And then you have George Marshall, their founder and owner. He founded the Boston Redskins, as they were called, I think they were originally called the Boston Braves, but he didn't think that was distinct enough, seeing as there already was a Boston Braves football team. So he said, I'll go even more hardcore. I'm going to call my team the Redskins, and it's going to be named basically after the practice of scalping dead Indian fighters during the Indian Wars. And I've read about this, and the person who was raising this issue today, she also raised this issue, that the name itself actually goes back to some racist issues that had been occurring in during the Indian Wars in the 19th century into the 20th century. In fact, it's not like we finished the Indian Wars in the 19th century. Now, like I said, people, in my opinion, this is a constitutional republic. We can't make teams by law change their logos or anything. It has to be done through more of a campaign of hearts and minds, telling people, there really is an issue with calling a team after a legacy of just dehumanizing people who were living here. Now that was something that I really was active in a while ago. That I'm not active in. I used to do a lot more writing about it, but to be honest with you, it's been swallowed up and destroyed by the rest of the social justice crowd. Seeing that now people don't care about the American Indian issues because they kind of show the same sort of pattern as other causes that, to be honest with you, are more contrived and less deserving of attention. And it's a sad thing. Now, George Marshall, the man in the plaque below, he wasn't just racist towards American Indians. In fact, that wasn't really the object of his racism. He just had, he had kind of stereotypical beliefs towards American Indians. It was pretty typical of his time, and that's the way America behaved towards them. But he was also he was a Southern person. He moved to the North, and in Boston, he was one of the most anti-integration owners in Major League Football. In fact, it was because of him that black players couldn't be drafted until I think it was like 1945 or something. I don't remember when it was, but he was one of the more staunch advocates of segregation in the NFL, which isn't really talked about. We all talk about Jackie Robinson. Whoever was the first black football player in the NFL, I don't remember what his name is, but the very fact that that's the case should be a real indicator. Now, at the time, also, football wasn't nearly as popular as baseball, so it's not as if that person was really a national figure at the time, but it's still a milestone. Now, he wouldn't let them draft a black player, I believe, until 1961 or 62, and it was at the behest of, I think his name was Stuart Udall. Interior said that he wouldn't build a stadium for the Washington Redskins in Washington, D.C., because Washington, D.C. is federal property until the Redskins drafted a black player. Now, in the midst of this, nobody gave a fuck about the nickname because people were like, oh, I guess that's a fine nickname. Nobody cares. After all, American Indians are such a small percentage of the population that we can just sweep this issue under the rug. So they never touched that issue for years, even after Marshall. I think he either passed away or he had to sell the team. And then they built him this statue at the stadium after it was built and named after Bobby Kennedy, who was against him. It's named after Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy was murdered, and they put a plaque of George Preston Marshall outside the stadium. And then I think in the 90s, the Redskins moved from that stadium, RFK Stadium, to what's now known as FedEx Field. It was originally just called Redskins Park in Landover, Maryland. And they don't even live in D.C., so this is all a huge charade and a lie. and it's a lie on several levels. The first level being that these players are protesting racism. Because if you're kneeling while wearing a uniform that shows people of a certain race in a, a classic stereotypical motif, as they are on the Washington Redskins, who, not gonna lie, I fucking hate anyway, because you can see this is my desk lamp. It says Cowboys. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I fucking hate them already. But yeah, that's pretty much a racist logo and everything. Now let's see if Angel tuned in. Nope, he didn't tune in today, but somebody is watching. Look, this team, the Washington Redskins, I think that they won the saga with the protesters. Nobody really took up their mantle. The standing rock issue was something last year I was really, I was really torn, because the standing rock issue, I think that the protesters were really brutalized in a way that was so exaggerated. People set dogs on them and fire hoses, and I mean, they did eventually. I think they attracted a lot of the wrong element. But none of these NFL players, least of all players on the Washington Redskins and the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Braves, nobody stood up for Native American rights, even though they were wearing logos that have, it's really, there is literally no connection between these teams and the community or the ethnic groups that they are claiming to give honor to. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. I mean, you have all these players who they're kneeling now because maybe they agree with a cause that none of them have talked about before, while wearing the logo of a team, the logo, the helmet, the colors of a team that is about as racist as any that exists in sports today. That's the first problem. The second problem is that they don't even know that their actual team history, beyond the logo and the symbolism, is racked with crazy amounts of racism, which I already outlined in the George Marshall description. Their own owner, the current owner, not Marshall, is known as one of the most intolerant in the NFL. He probably doesn't support the protest at all. This is just so that he can cover his ass to the liberal Washington media. And Dan Snyder, I don't care if he calls himself a conservative, he's a phony. He's one of these phony oligarchical conservatives. He's not the type that I support. Corporate welfare conservative, just like Jimmy Haslam here in Cleveland, another so-called conservative. His brother is the governor of Tennessee. He buys a team in Ohio, rips off truckers through his other business, the Pilot J trucking business, Pilot Flying J. He's ripping off all of these truckers by not returning their rebates. And then he asks for money for renovations from the city where the fucking school system is crumbling and falling apart. So that's the same thing with Dan Snyder. I think he wants a new stadium again. He wants a new DC stadium. Excuse me. Wow, I've been drinking too much of this. This is, I mean, so that's just one more layer. This is a team that they want money from a bankrupt city like DC or Landover, Maryland, to build a new stadium when their own stadium, their current stadium, actually isn't that old. I think it was opened in like 1993 or something, 1994. I heard it's a horrendous death trap, or there's no room for people to actually sit down. But that's them. I mean, I don't give a shit about their team or their fans. Obviously, I think their fans have the right to keep watching them because I'm a free speech advocate. But if you're going to protest against racism while wearing racist colors, then maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should do it in a more discreet way. Maybe you should protest both. What do you think would happen think about it. If the Redskins would protest racism by not wearing their uniforms, they just come out in pads and you know, oh, well, we're just going to be the skins today. Literally the skins. They come out with just the pads on top of their you know, with no jerseys on top of them. Do you think that that would I think that that would be a very, very deep and profound protest. Don't you think that that would be very interesting if they did that? I think it would make a little more sense than you know, quote, protesting racism while wearing racist symbolism. And then the final layer of that whole bullshit is that they're called the Washington Redskins, but they're actually located across the border in Maryland, because apparently they probably got more money from the state of Maryland to um, build the stadium over there, FedEx Field. So they are getting residents of one of the poorest cities in the country, DC, to buy their shitty merchandise of a racist team that uses the name of their city that they're not even located in. So how many elements of retard do you need here in order to see that there's nothing to this protest? It's bullshit. Maybe, like I said, there's maybe 5 or 6 players that have actual, you know, a good handle on what this is about. What's that other guy's name? Not Byron Maxwell, but I think Malcolm Jenkins on Philadelphia. He's also one of them. So Malcolm Jenkins, Richard Sherman, Anquan Bolden, and maybe a couple more. The fact that I can name them shows just how much bullshit this is, because the other guys, they're kind of people that they're not taken seriously. Camera kind of freaking out here, so give me a second. Okay, I think I'm back. So, and this is something that I told her, this person that I talked to, I'm not going to use her name, I'm just going to call her Lisa. So Lisa, if you're watching this, I don't know when you're going to watch this, if you're watching, she asked about the Kansas City Chiefs and if they protested too. And yes, they did. A few of them did. I don't know if all of them did. There were a few teams that the entire team protested, like Jacksonville and Seattle, and I believe Pittsburgh, except for one guy, which has become a saga of its own. But yeah, Kansas City actually had a few players that they were some of the first to protest. And it just so happens that Kansas City Chiefs, also using the Arrowhead logo, which is also an Indian motif, they happen to be playing on Monday night next week. And guess which team that they're going to be playing? I mean, think about it. Guess which team you're going to be seeing on Monday Night Football? The Washington Redskins and the Kansas City Chiefs. Probably going to see a bunch of talk about this protest. It doesn't make any fucking sense. How can you have solidarity of two teams? Two teams, the Washington Redskins and Kansas City Chiefs, on Monday night against racism, when both of them use racist imagery. Don't you think it kind of just stinks of idiocy and a lack of you know, introspection? Don't you think that's a little bit of a problem? Let me see if there's a few responses here. It frees up. Yeah, this computer is really not treating me well tonight. How's it going, Ramon Nados? Oh, Angel, thanks for tuning in today. I was talking about your favorite football team. Um, I think the Washington Redskins, that they're in a bit of a pickle, and I think we should really make it apparent that this protest bullshit if that team protests against it. Now I know that you're a fan of that team. I'll never understand it for the life of me, but I think we have a little common ground here, just like we do with plenty of other stuff. So um, I can really see that. Move that back. Anyway, so I think I'm going to end this before it goes too long, and I also, but yeah, go back and watch the beginning, Angel. Angel says, I would love to join in another live show next week. Well, let's talk about, how about Angel Sunday morning or Saturday night late? I'll only be able to do it late Saturday night, but let me know. Stream, but no, we can talk, and I think we should talk about this or something. How's that sound?